So, during the following tutorial videos, we will be creating a 3D asset, a rock asset. And we'll start this off by loading a tool. There is this 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter cube available for you in Themes, in the Digital Sculpting Learning Materials folder, and you'll just load the tool from this button here and then find it from whichever folder location you are placing it into. And this 1 meter cube we will be using for size reference. So we're not going to actually sculpt this or anything. It's only for size reference. So let's start this off. And so go into your primitives and let's pick this cube 3D and let's initialize it. I think that it has slightly too much geometry. So let's go here into the initialize tab and let's take the divisions down a bit. I think that something like that is good. Okay, let's close it and then make polymesh 3D, and then we will append the polymesh 3D object, and let's move this reference cube to the side, and we can actually hide it for now. Then I'm going to pick the move brush and then I'm going to start shaping the rock. So my aim is to create a rock that is very sort of has all sorts of sharp edges, so sort of like a piece of granite or something like that. So if you want, you can of course create some smooth rock or any kind of a rock that you want, but just for demonstrating a certain kind of workflow or thinking when working with this program, I'm going to create this rock with all sorts of sharp corners and edges. So I'm shaping the rock. I'm trying to think of how the rock has formed. As you know, rocks have these all sorts of layers. They've been created over time, formed over time by the nature, so they are very layered. And also what I'm going to try to look at is the silhouette, the overall silhouette. I want the rock to be different from different angles, so that it's as usable as possible when created. When used in creating level art. So, and also the reason why I'm working on this from this very low poly shape is because it's just quite simply a lot faster to create these kinds of shapes from low poly meshes rather than actually sculpt some high poly mesh and try to get it have all sorts of sharp corners. I can actually demonstrate what I mean. So let's go, for example, in here, and let's just dynamesh this. So I'm going to that's a bit too much geometry. I'm gonna re-dynamesh it, and nothing happened. And this happens sometimes with Dynamesh, so that you're trying to change the resolution, but nothing's happening, it's staying the same. And what you have to do is you just have to do a little something to the mesh, even just smooth it a bit or something, and then try again, and voila, it worked. Anyway, so why are we doing it from so low poly mesh? The reason is quite simply because it would be very hard to get those sharp edges by sculpting, as you can understand. So I'm going to try to get those sharp forms here. It's looking quite desperate. I guess you already maybe got the idea that this is going to take some time if I would want to have this really cumbersome. So since there is the possibility to work from these kinds of shapes and then dynamesh it, will work that way. So, and as I've been saying in the ZBrush basics introductory videos, it's always a good idea to start from low poly counts and then gradually advance into higher vertex counts. Okay, I'm quite liking this rock now. It's not half bad at all. I'll try to create a little bit of variation here so that it feels slightly more organic. Too even in here as well. Okay. Okay, that's nice. And then let's take a look at what it looks like from different sides. This is a bit bland, so let's push some of those forms. Well, okay, something like that. It is pretty nice. And then when we're starting to be satisfied with the overall forms. Push that bit over there. The idea is that I want this rock to be perfectly usable, either like this, lying on the ground like this, or like this. So I want them these shapes to be a little different, more asymmetrical on both sides. And I'll mask this portion, and then okay, looking nice. So okay, now we can dynamesh this and start sculpting some details in there, because this is of course too mechanical looking, or too the corners, the edges, they are too perfect. The shape is very organic, the primary shapes, but the finer forms we're going to destroy them a bit. So let's dynamesh that, and yeah, okay, that's a good resolution. I'm going to deactivate the dynamesh, and then I'm going to take this trim dynamic brush that I already used a bit in there when I was showing, and then I'm going to just make those forms a bit more organic, just breaking them. So sculpting something like this, from a fairly high poly mesh would have taken ages, so we have really saved time doing this like this. And so I'll just work these all sorts of nooks and crannies and edges. And I'm also going to show you something extra now. You can continue using, for example, this brush, and then there's, for example, this flatten brush. It might also, they're quite similar. The trim dynamic brush, I think that it suits slightly better to this purpose. But then I'm also going to show you something. So let's go here into the brush folder. So go to your lightbox, and then here in the brush folder there is this trim folder. Let's open that. Oops. Oh, okay, and there we have these trim brushes, and this one, trim smooth border brush, this is the one that we want. So let's pick that one, and you can already see the difference. I mean, we're getting so much better, more rocky looking details here. So rush this a bit so that you won't be watching this for too long. And okay. And just tapping here and there, trying to keep the shapes sharp, but give them that organic look. And I'm using this both with Alt pressed down as well as as it's by default. Okay. This one is looking somehow a bit too straight, so let's break that up a bit. That one as well. Okay, that's nice. And constantly trying to look if there is something too artificial looking, like that one is too straight edged there. So that's nice. Okay, then those are too artificial looking, and those and as I said, you can do whatever kind of rock that you ever would want, and also if you want to add some kind of details like some runic inscriptions or some ornaments, carve some ornaments to the rock, that's perfectly fine, but don't go for anything too ambitious, so keep it simple. And then those shapes are a bit too I smoothed those edges slightly. And okay. And there some kind of problems, so let's take care of those. I'm just going to mask them, and then invert the mask. Then I go here into modify topology, and I'm going to sorry, first we have to go here into visibility and then hide path. So now it hid the parts that were not masked, and then back to the geometry tab, and then del hidden. Now they are hidden, and they are deleted, and then close holes, and like so. So now we get rid of those. Let's close that and continue. Okay, and let's take a look at what it's looking like. So the height is about 2 meters, and okay, it's looking good. Okay, then that edge is looking slightly too artificial again, and well, flatten that as well to create something interesting in there. Okay, so like that. Okay, then maybe like that. Okay, we can also use, for example, the move brush to push some of those forms in a bit in order to create some more of these organic shapes. And yes, and then push those in. There's something about this portion that I'm not really liking, so I'm going to push those shapes and okay, and okay, then trim smooth border again, and these were the portions where I was moving the mesh about, so okay. Okay, gradually getting done with this. Okay. And I'm always trying to look for ways to make this look more organic and have some variation in the shapes to make it more interesting. So let's pull those forms down a bit and then push those up a bit to have that little extra in there somehow. And also this we push backwards. Okay, that's better. And then like this. Okay, that's pretty nice. And okay. And no, that was looking good already. Okay. And then this one is slightly too flat, so I'm going to add a little bit of variation here, make it look more layered. Okay, and I was talking too low there, or too quiet there. Really concentrated on this thing now, apparently. Okay, I think we are getting to the finish line with this. Is there still something? Those are too artificial looking. Going to break that a bit, like so. Well, okay, those are also not so good. So, okay, and Still finding some nooks and crannies there that are either too mushy or somehow too artificial. So sharpening up some of those shapes. Let's push this one in there a bit. Okay, not bad. Not bad, not bad. Okay. Okay. There's something that I don't like about this portion here. Well, let's call it done now. Okay, I'm not going to touch this thing anymore. I guess it's looking like some kind of a rock now. Either it's going to take too much time. So now what we are going to do is, first of all, I'm going to rename this. So it's going to be called Rock High, like so. Then I'm going to duplicate it, and this one I'm going to call rock_ref, like so. And then this one I'm going to delete, and this reference mesh, we are going to go here into this Z plugin drop menu, and we're going to find this Decimation master. And here we have these steps, and we're going to completely step over step 1. We don't need any of this, so we're going to go here into the step 2 and click on this process current. So we're processing the reference mesh. Okay, and it was done. And then step 3 is decimation. So let's see what that does. So we're going to leave that to 20% and then click on this decimate current. Okay, and then let's see what happened. Let's go to solo mode. So now when we compare the high poly mesh and the reference mesh, we can see that the decimation master has removed vertices from this mesh. The original mesh was 188,000 and the reference mesh is 37,000, but it's still not low enough. We need to decimate it again. So let's go back to Z plugin and decimation master, hit preprocess current again, and it was done. And then let's take down the percentage of decimation to something like that. Let's see what happens. Okay, and now we are at 2,500 vertices, and let's compare. Okay. So, the way in which this decimation master works is that it is removing vertices from areas in which they are not needed, in areas in which they don't contribute to the forms, or where they contribute to the forms very little. So as you can see, for example, this area here is very flat, so it doesn't need this much geometry. So it's going to remove most of that, and whereas then there are some places like this, for example, where the vertices are contributing to the overall forms. So it's not decimating the mesh so radically in such places. But anyway, this is perfectly good for our purposes. So now the next step would be to, well, first of all, we could save this project now. So let's go here into Save As, and I'm going to name it like that so that I find it. Okay, and this affects the naming, of course, so we'll have to take that off from here. I just wanted to save this project just in case. So then we are going to import these, and we go here into export, and we type in a value of 100, like so. Now the scale is 100, and then we go again here into the Z plugin drop menu. Let's close this decimation master, and right underneath it is this FBX export import, and we are going to export the selected mesh, so not visible but only the selected, and FBX 2016 is okay, and bin, it's all looking good. If you have S-normals activated, turn it off, and then export. And let's go here, and I'm going to save over this old FBX file. Yes, and then I'm going to go back here and select the rock reference mesh, and again into the Z plugin and FBX export import, and this is all good now. Here click on export, and yes, I'm going to replace that file as well, and that's about it. In the next video we'll be going on to Maya, and we will retopologize this high poly model using this reference mesh. So just to recap the purpose of this reference mesh. So reference mesh is created because something like this would be quite simply just too high. The poly count would be too high for Maya to handle. So we need to create this reference mesh so that it doesn't die. It would be very troublesome to try to manipulate something as dense as this mesh. So this reference mesh serves only for the retopology purpose. Okay, that was about that. So let's see in the other video.